Good afternoon. Very happy to welcome you to our session, Islam and Sports. Let me introduce myself. I am Romanov Yegor. I am a counselor to the Minister of the Russian Federation of Sports, and our today's session is dedicated on sports. And this is one of the first time that we host such a session, Islam and Sports. There are a lot of people in our country who keep an eye open on how sports is being developed in Russia and what opportunities we have and how Muslim athletes can do sports without any limitations. So we need to discuss these things today. So now let me introduce our today's panelists. So these are Rustam Hayrulin, representative of the head of the Spiritual Administration of Muslims of the Republic of Tatarstan, Deputy Director of Masara Mohammadiya. Very happy to see you today. Next is Elchin Hasanov Zulfigarogli, Vice President of the Azerbaijani Aquatics Federation. Wasim Al-Daya, Executive Director of the holding company Dlayaya from Qatar. Ranko Tepavchevich, Deputy General Director, General Secretary of the Directorate of Sports and Social Projects from Republic of Tatarstan. Also, we have Hazrat Rustam and Vadim Ilfatovich. So, dear colleagues, I kindly ask you to keep the time limit. You have only 10 minutes for your presentations, and at the very end, if we have some time, we will arrange a Q&A session. So the first speaker will be Mr. Hayrulin, representative of the head of the Spiritual Administration of Muslims of Tatarstan. So Islam, just like any other religion, pays special attention to education and involving population into sports, into grassroots sports, require leaders, spiritual leaders. And today's athletes are given the propagation of mass media, sometimes act as influencers, as opinion leaders. So do you think that we need to educate them and raise them in a way that they serve a good, a decent example for the next generation? And how, in general, do you see the interaction between Islam and sports? So first of all, let me send my words from our spiritual administration, and on behalf of our spiritual administration, let me welcome you to our session. We're very happy to see you. So you know that our Mufti loves sports. He's an athlete himself. It can be running, it can be wrestling, any other sporting discipline, but we pay special attention to any kind of sports. Because for us, for Muslims, Muhammad is our first and main example, and that's why we welcome him. And as we say, strong people and faithful people, they are always stronger and they are always better than those who do not believe in God. And our Prophet, he did wrestling, he was running with his wife. So a lot of sports was in his life, and he's a very good example for us, for Muslims. And you know that there are good deeds that are called Sunnah. And here, Sunnah are the acts made by our Prophet, and we need to follow his example. So now we have different competitions like like bowling or swimming or horse riding. And all these things, if we take a closer look at them, are quite important. It can be any type of sports. You don't have to be an elite athlete. You don't have to always get medals, but you have to do sports anyway, and you have to appreciate two things. First is your health and your leisure time. And all these two things, unfortunately, sometimes we lose them. And here our athletes must be leaders. They need to guide our younger generation. Because we, as those who were raised in 1990s, so now we know that there are movies about Kazan phenomenon. So people say that our generation is sank in scenes that were destroying our health. So now that we see more and more people coming to sports, we see more challenges to healthy lifestyle arising in our world. We see that healthy lifestyle is being substituted by other things. So that's why we need sports. And we need leaders who will guide our younger generation. And here, there is a question of ethical norms. And I would like to cover them as well. We would like our athletes, as you said, be not just physically stronger, but ethically as well, and spiritually as well. So we know if a bad person gets educated, he will be an educated bad person. So if a bad person can do sports, he will be a good athlete, but still he will be a bad person, a very strong bad person. That's why we need to talk about ethics. Any ethics, Muslim athletes, Islamic athletes, Orthodox ethics, but these norms, they should be identical, they should be similar. And we know that our brothers from Caucasus, they take prizes, they get awards. We see them with medals and belts. And then someone else who's older than them comes to the room. They always stand up to welcome them. And this is what I'm talking about. These are ethical norms. So now in Russia, we are celebrating the Year of Family. And you can recall all these family virtues that were coming from generation to generation. And this is just very simple norm. When a mother gives you some food, first, who was the first one she gave food? It was father. And if any children started to eat before father, what would happen? So he would be beaten with a spoon in his forehead. So this is a very simple virtue. Who is the leader of the family, and that you need to respect your family members, and sports should be like that. So we want our younger generation to come to sports. We want them to be strong. We want them to be decent. We want them to be ethical, and this is what we are pursuing. There are certain ethical norms that we need to discuss. So we have representatives of the elite sports and other people from sports. So this is our destiny, and there are some norms that we cannot violate. If we violate them, it will be like a sin. So maybe in the future, we need to revise the ethical norms. So in Islam, there is Irad. These are norms that we cannot violate. Of course, we understand that there are certain rules, like rules of equipment, of shorts, of t-shirts, of jerseys. And you remember that our volleyball players in Iran, in one of the Muslim countries, they took part in the competitions. And I posted that photos. So they went to the court with their body parts covered, those parts that should not be seen by anyone. So probably here in sports we can also pay special attention to that. When a young lady, if she is doing sports, her body parts should be covered. If a man, an athlete, a wrestler or a swimmer, if they come on blocks or they come to the court, their body parts should be covered as well. It is crucially important because if you violate this, you're a sinner. And here I have a special favor to follow these rules. And of course, we understand that we need to take this into account in sports, in Islamic sports, and probably we will see that not just in Russia but in Europe. And what we really don't want to see is the combination of genders. So in Islam it's very regulated, so men against men, women against women. So when we have a Ramadan, a lot of questions come. So like, I'm going to competitions, I'm going to a tournament, can I violate the fasting? And here is the dilemma, and how can I answer this question? So there are certain fastings that you cannot break. So the question is, if you have a schedule of tournaments, we need to take this point into account. Fasting is quite important, no matter whether it's Orthodox or Islamic, because we want our athletes to compete at their best. And you, as the Minister of Sports of the Russian Federation, need to talk about this and to take this into account. Another very important point is 5-time pray. For example, here we at the Kazan Expo we have a special pray room, and it shouldn't be a very big room. Just say that if you would like to make a pray, you just can come to that room, and that's okay. And I think that in that regard, our athletes will achieve even better results. And I'm pretty sure that we have people from different sporting disciplines, and we need to talk about this because this is a very big dilemma. And now that we have our own children, we can choose different disciplines. For example, Islam prohibits slapping or slashing people in their faces, but we have mixed martial arts, and we have wrestling and other martial arts where such actions are being made. Another point is like vocabulary from coaches, from athletes. Sometimes people curse, or they abuse people, or they insult someone, which is not acceptable in any religion. Another point is that sports and Islam regulates and Islam prohibits betting. So betting and deals are strictly prohibited by Islam, and you as the organizers need to pay special attention to that point as we're talking about Islam and sports. So when we have tournaments, when we have the schedule of tournaments, it will be up to you to deal with the betting. So you need to, for example, provide our athletes with better equipment so Muslim ladies and Muslim men can compete in a decent equipment. And at the end, I would like to mention a book published by our publishing house, Uzur. So under the same name, we have a TV channel, and I would like to hand over this book to you, to our organizers, and to our moderator, to you, to your management, so you can read it. You can learn something about wrestling because our Mufti loves wrestling. So it's all yours. Rustam Hazrat, thank you very much. So Yes, the question of education and the question of Islam in sports are quite important and quite relevant as we're talking about moral education and spiritual education, because our country, the Russian Federation, pays special attention to any religions, and we do everything we can, as our president says, so we can protect our values. And in our country, we pay special attention to that, and in fact, we are the global leaders of the protection of world values. And I would like to give the floor to Elchin Hasanov, Vice President of the Azerbaijan Aquatics Federation. So the World Muslim Solidarity Games took place in your country. It's a very important sports tournament. So please tell us more about this tournament, about the organization and nuances that we need to pay attention to, especially when it comes to keeping Muslim traditions and when it comes to Muslim athletes. So thank you very much. Hey, good afternoon, dear colleagues. So first of all, I would like to say thank you to everyone in this room, and especially to Mr. Rustam Hazrat for his speech. It was quite impressive. As the follow-up, I would like to share our experience of hosting events in the hospitable Republic of Azerbaijan. So we are talking about fourth Muslim Solidarity Games that took place a few years ago, and this event not just unites our Muslim friends, and it also stimulates promoting of Muslim values and the solidarity between Islamic countries. So it was a very large-scale event with multiple disciplines. We wanted to attract the best athletes from all over the world, and we wanted to depict the variety of interests and the possibilities of Muslim young generation. Because it's not just about traditional disciplines, but it also helps us to promote new disciplines. And the schedule included 20 disciplines. And in some disciplines we even had Paralympic athletes. And given that, I would like to talk about officiating. So organizers followed all international standards, including technical support and rules observation, certification and licensing, and only the best referees and officials were attracted to this tournament. So Azerbaijan is actually investing into sports development. So we build new venues, sites and arenas, which helps us to promote sports in our country. So for Islamic Games, we didn't have to build anything from scratch in Baku in Azerbaijan, because we already have very decent sports venues. We upgraded our venues, our arenas, and they were tested during the first European Games back in 2015. One of them is Olympic Stadium, Gymnastics Arena, Aquatics Palace, Tennis Academy, Center of Weightlifting, and some others. So as for Islamic Solidarity Games, it was a fourth tournament, and the first one were arranged back in 2015 by Saudi Arabia. So for us it was a great experience. It was a true festival of sports. In 2017, 54 countries came to Azerbaijan. And of course it was very good for our country, because Baku is the big international center, which is quite accessible for people from different countries. And of course it helped us to attract as many people to this tournament as possible. Not just athletes, but spectators as well. So we provided everything to arrange the Solidarity Games, but also we expressed our best qualities because we are a very hospitable and sportsman-like country. In 2017, with very warm heart, we welcomed people from different countries and we made everything we could to accommodate our athletes and fans and to make this tournament memorable. So more than 27,000 people were attracted for this tournament, and a very big number of it were volunteers. We wanted to use the experience for the best international projects so that they can use this experience in future, in their future career, and it was very important for them to support Islamic Games because we are united by culture, by religion, and thanks to the previous experience of large-scale events, the organizing of Islamic Games was held at the very high level, and up to 2017 in Azerbaijan, we hosted first European Olympic Games, 2015, chess Olympics, Formula One stages, and it means that now Azerbaijan is the multicultural center that can host any sports tournaments, and this is how Azerbaijan is seen in the entire world. And at the end, I would like to say that all sports venues continue to operate, and on a daily basis they attract thousands of sports amateurs and enthusiasts. I used to have the biggest in Europe aquatics palace, and I'm the vice president of the aquatics of Azerbaijan, and we hosted European Games 2015, Islamic Games 2017, and European Junior Olympic Festival 2019. So hosting such big sporting events was quite favorable for our younger generation development. And this is all from my side. Thank you very much, and should you have any questions, I will be happy to take them, and I'm hoping that I will be able to share my experience, especially when it comes to arranging Islamic Games 2017. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you tell us, Elchin, the access to the games was not limited only to Muslim athletes, right? Do I take it correctly that athletes from other countries and religions could also take place in the games? Yes, of course, that goes without saying. Right, that's very good because, well, we know that sports goes beyond politics, and that means that any sports event is for everybody, regardless of the fact that in the name of the games we have this word Islamic, right? Well, when we say Islamic, it means that we just organize it in the Muslim countries, but interconfessional relations are always the priority for us. And actually, it doesn't really matter who participates in the games, Muslims or non-Muslims. We welcome everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our next speaker, Maxim Agapitov, the president of the Russian Weightlifting Federation. Distinguished Maxim, today you said that you'll be talking about the protection of traditional and religious values in the international sports. And as Rustam Hazrat just told us, it's very important to adhere to the norms and rules when it comes to our personal values and religious values. This is the cornerstone of anybody, of every individual. So we'd like to hear about what issues exist in the international sports. Why do we need to protect international values? Dear friends, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak here directly to you. I'm also thankful to listen to other speakers sharing their opinions and comments. Also, it was very interesting to listen about how such a big event as Islamic Games was organized. I think it's very important and valuable. So, my name is Maxim Agapetov, and I'm the president of the Russian Weightlifting Federation, and I'm the first vice president of the European Federation. I'm the master of sports, and I'm a world champion from 1997. So today I would like to draw your attention to the topic that is now not highlighted enough, even though it's very relevant and very important. But first, I would like to give you my personal story and my personal outlook, because it plays an important role in the whole concept. So I've been doing weightlifting since I was a kid, and I really like it, but sometimes I think that actually wrestling is really my thing. Actually, first I became the world champion in weightlifting, and at that time I was to become a bronze medalist, but because of the doping testings, the champion and the silver medalist were disqualified, and then I became the golden medalist back at that time. And then I realized that, of course, being clean here is very important. And also back in 2016, I became the head of the Russian Weightlifting Federation. And that time, Russian weightlifting was in a difficult situation. And after that, after I became the president of the federation, I managed to put everything in order and make the Russian weightlifting better. Now I'm also the member of the executive committee of the International Federation of Weightlifting. And actually it turned out that the system of doping, as well as the corruption, is the international one. And I realized it when I started to work at the international level. And that's why, when it comes to the weightlifting, Russia is in a kind of difficult situation, because this system is imposed from the outside. And we managed to prove this, what I've just mentioned, and the architect of this whole system, Tanas Shayan, who led the International Federation for more than 20 years, had to resign. Then I participated in the elections to become the president of the International Weightlifting Federation, and actually there was a lot of opposition to this, because there was a successor who had to get this position. But then I won 3 cases in CAS, and the international arbitration, and that's actually quite a telling story. So the future of the fight for the weightlifting is not finished yet. Today we in Russia are facing a very serious challenge. In Tokyo, in the Olympics, there was the first transgender woman participating in weightlifting. And I also paid attention to the reaction, to the response from the audience. I was in Tokyo at that time, and I saw everything with my own eyes. I looked at the reaction of the audience, of the media, and of the athletes themselves. And I would like to state that everybody knew what was going on within the competition, but there was an atmosphere that nobody could voice their real opinion on that, and it at least looked strange to me. So, in fact, I wasn't allowed to express any emotions or any opinions of mine regarding this transgender athlete. But I must say that a lot of people were quite surprised. Professionals in the field, they were just taken by surprise, because they didn't really understand what was going through the competition, and the athletes were quite demotivated, I must say. And the media, when we compare it to the previous competitions in other disciplines, there were 3 or 5 times more media representatives that took part in that. I think that's also quite telling. So now let's talk about the values and how we should bring up our young athletes. So weightlifting, as any other discipline, can help to build the feeling of patriotism and such values as integrity, discipline and self-control. I guess that being brave and being hardworking and goal-oriented is also taught through this discipline. And I think that the novelties, that the gender politics in sports is a threat. It's a threat to the preservation of traditional values, because as we know, sports is the tool how we can bring up our young children, and also this is one of the values of the Olympics. This is quite a serious challenge to the international sports, and we can't just keep silence or ignore as if nothing would be happening. I guess that this situation needs to be addressed. So just to give you a general overview, I will just briefly sum up the current state of affairs. I'd like to remind you that at the end of 2022, the President of Russia, Putin, signed the law on the anti-LGBT propaganda, as well as change of gender among children of any age, as well as adults. Before that, this law was only applicable to the minors, and also the punishment for such propaganda was made more strict. And in Kyrgyzstan, in 2023, there was also a law signed by the president against the propaganda of non-traditional values among children. And the most strict legislation against LGBT propaganda is applicable in many countries, such as Oman, Saudi Arabia, and many others. We can see the statistics that in such countries where there is propaganda of non-traditional relationships, there are many more people like this, and where there is no propaganda of LGBT, usually the statistics says that the percentage of LGBT people is about 1%, and in the countries where there is LGBT propaganda, they say that the number of LGBT people is about 12%. And in 2021, before the Olympics, there were some recommendations issued for international federations. Why I'm well aware of this, and I would also like to tell you about this, it's because we have a large flow of information. Sometimes we can overlook something, but I was in the center of those events, so I just remember what was said publicly and what was going on. But unfortunately, we don't always hear all of this because of different languages that are spoken, as well as because of many other news that are happening and that are being added to our media platform. So there were recommendations for the international federations on the transgender athletes that say that they are of another gender identity rather than their biological one. And so it says that the athletes should compete in the category where they feel better and more suitable. But in accordance with the Charter, everybody should be competing on the equal level. And maybe it would be good to have a separate group for transgender people. Otherwise, transgender men start to compete with women, and they have an advantage in this. And actually, we've seen it in the weightlifting. So the decision of the new gender politics in the International Weightlifting Federation was adopted on the sidelines, kind of secretly, without any public attention. So it was the violation of the Charter. Now let's talk about how we are planning to, and they are planning to, host other international sport events. This is actually all the public information. So the Olympics appreciate the diversity, and they also highlight the lesbians and other LGBT people. And so this gives us an opportunity to think about the inclusivity aspect in the Olympics. And in the same paper, they say that the upcoming Olympics in Paris will be used for the propaganda of LGBT movement that is considered an extremist movement. And now I'd like to quote. In Paris 2024, we strongly believe that sport changes our lives, and also it can create some mindset when it comes to the absence of discrimination, said the president of the Olympic Games. This is for our pride. And so as the organizers of the largest events, we would also like to take this opportunity to promote this very important fight for diversity and inclusivity. And when it comes to the Olympic fire, one of the carriers of the Olympic fire will be a transvestite person. And so this person will be seen for about 2 hours in Paris this summer. So this was a direct quote. End point. And a lot of international federations already are following this destructive LGBT ideology and transgender ideology. And in the federal law 324 in Russia by the Olympic Committee of Russia, in this law we say directly that it's prohibited to have propaganda of LGBT or of any materials that can build a destructive LGBT ideology, including the gender transition. Everything that is connected to the propaganda of depopulation lifestyle. This can be a threat to the national interests and safety and security of this country. So, as a result, the new rules and the new normality force athletes as well as public officials in the sports world, they kind of promote the gender transition. And on behalf of the country, participants should also adhere to these new norms, rules, and the new international legislation in this field. And as a medical secret, or just guided by the medical secret, a lot of athletes are taking some medicines because they explain it by some medical necessities. Right, you're a bit pressed for time. Right, I'd just like to give a couple of more comments. Just briefly, I'd like to remind you of the risks that we are all facing today and challenges that we are facing today. First, this is a threat to the traditional values because sports is one of the most important tools to raise our youth. Also, it violates the sport principles. Second, the violation of and the decisions on the gender politics is made on the sidelines and not in public. And also it can promote destructive ideology propaganda among young people. This new norm forces athletes and sports officials to take part in this propaganda. And in the pretext of a medical secret, one can take some medicines and get some advantage because of this. And with this new gender policy, the TV broadcast, text materials, and information materials will all include LGBT agenda. I guess those are the challenges that we really need to see, understand, and to take action against. So those are challenges and values that are common for any country, any religion, be that Christianity, Islam, etc. So the majority actually shares these values. About 60 countries in the world are kind of neutral, and around 60 countries in the West, they are opposing their ideology of value-free communities. And they promote such values as child-free, LGBT, etc. And another comment, people with this ideology are multiplying because they are taking more and more children. So now we see the trend of pedophiles in the Western world. So my concluding comment. So we invite the multinational people of Russia to stand against this narration. The principles of the gender politics of the international sport federations are against the values of our multinational country, and we are given this right to represent our country at this international arena. The rules are applicable for everybody, even though the national federations can take a different outlook on this. And we are afraid that this can later be entering our children's minds and our families. Thank you. Thank you, Maxim. Any event, any sports event, any big sports event is not possible without the infrastructure. As it was already said today, the infrastructure should also be in correspondence with the spiritual values of those who will be competing as well as those who will be watching the competitions. And one of the largest sport events, was the FIFA World Cup that took place in 2022 in Qatar. And now I'd like to give the floor to the executive director of the holding company Dlala, Mr. Wasim Al-Daya. And I'd like to ask our speaker to talk about the infrastructure, how it was prepared for this largest event. Please, the floor is yours.
Dear distinguished guests and speakers, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the great presentations and speeches about your experience and what you have shared. My name is Wasim Al-Daya, and I am honored to be part of the Qatari delegation through the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and also Qatar Businessmen Association. What I would like to mention today is the experience that we had in Qatar, like what you just mentioned about the Islam in sports in the infrastructure. I believe that in Qatar we hold one of the best and distinguished events with the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022, and there was so much dilemma in how a country, an Arabic and Muslim country, can host such an event with that many other nationalities and different religions, different cultures. But the infrastructure that was already built in Qatar was already designed to accommodate all these nationalities and different cultures in a proper way, and made the country welcome everyone and show them how Islam and Arab culture can be very welcoming, very peaceful, and also respect everybody's traditions and everybody's way of thinking, and how they can practice and exercise everything that they want, from hospitality into fan engagement, fan experience, sports, and other cultural events. So I believe that once you have a proper plan to host such big events, everything is possible, just to have a proper determination and planning. I would like also to keep the floor for any question. We can share some experience from what we had in Qatar. I'm not sure if anybody was attended the FIFA World Cup in Qatar or not. Yeah.
Ну, пожалуйста, конечно. Да, конечно, спрашивайте. Спрашивайте. Да?
السلام عليكم. دكتور مسعود عبيد، النائب الأول لمجلس الأعلى للدولة ليبيا. سؤالي لحضرتكم، أنا في البداية أشكر دولة تتارسكان على هذا التنظيم الرائع، وسؤالي لحضرتكم اللي هو ما هي الأسس و
I'm sorry, we don't have the interpretation into English from Arabic.
As a resident in Qatar for the last 21 years, I believe that the state of Qatar was able to plan and to set the infrastructure, not only for the big events, but also for hosting business and international delegations and expats and residents to stay in Qatar and to do business, despite of their culture or their religion. Because in Qatar we are at a very modern base of doing business, and despite of any other connections to different cultures. So the country is open, the country is welcoming for everyone to do business at their own business activity, and also to participate in big events like cultural events or conferences, forums, and it's widely open. And the plan is to host that as a hub for the GCC. Thank you.
Еще есть вопрос?
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Presentation. I have very short questions. So it's nice that Qatar is a country hosted this international sports event. But how was organized the religious field for the believers from sportsmen, in particular for Christians in Qatar? And how was this coming pressure of new gender policy was put on Qatar, and how did you manage it? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here as a resident of Qatar and also representing a private company. But in terms of the experience that we had, and we were involved in the World Cup in organizing so many activations from sports and experiential marketing, we believe that every venue was equipped with a prayer room that anyone who wants to practice praying, they can do it freely, and also there is no limitations for your practice and exercise in private, as long as you respect other people. So you can do whatever you want. You can do anything that is free, but without affecting anybody's freedom. So you cannot tap onto anybody else. It's your personal freedom.
Еще один вопрос.
Да, есть.
Да.
Sorry?
Да. Еще вопрос, пожалуйста, можно?
Can I ask another question?
Manage all this pressure from international sports bodies.
Yes, I believe that it was already dictated in the beginning that anything that has to do with your personal opinion, it should stay with you, not to be shared or to tap into other people. So that's a personal issue. Thank you.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут
Hello, my name is Hizan Hassan. We do know that the organization of FIFA World Cup in Qatar was held at the highest level, and in Kazan we also have the same organization that held many international events such as the Olympics, etc. How can we unite our efforts? It's kind of a suggestion to also train some personnel to maybe later enable them to participate in some international events. Because like you have some training center in Qatar, and here in Kazan we also have a large training center that organized one of the largest sport events. How can we unite our efforts maybe to train personnel for subsequent events, sports events in Islamic region? Because today we have a lot of different representatives, and it would be very nice and very helpful to train personnel specifically for Islamic countries and sport events there. Because what's most important for the event is the people, and people in Qatar already got the experience, right? And here we also have the necessity to do this. So it would be very nice to unite our efforts and exchange our experience when it comes to the training of personnel specifically for sport events. That was kind of a suggestion. Thank you.
There is already a system set in place for to get the experience from previous events. So in Qatar, we have a big team that already participated and attended in Brazil, FIFA World Cup, and also in Russia, and got the experience and the knowledge how to handle such big events, and they moved this experience to Qatar. And now, after delivering the World Cup Qatar 2022 and the achievement that we have done as a small country compared to other regions or countries that hosting the World Cup, for example, the 2026 US, Canada, and Mexico, the experience that we had, it was extraordinary. And I believe the experience that we have, we can move it to other countries, especially with Russia and Tatarstan. I think we have the common knowledge that we can share, and we can take it to the next level by communicating with the sports bodies that are in Qatar. We have many facilities like Aspire Zone, and we have the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy. We have Visit Qatar, and all of them, they are working together hand in hand into enhancing and bringing the country to the next level in terms of organizing and hosting big events. So I believe you can communicate with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, definitely, and as well with the other bodies that I have just mentioned to take it to the next level, and it's more than welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Спасибо, господин.
Thank you, Mr. Vasim Aldaya. So since we're talking about Kazan in Russia, Kazan is a true capital of sports, and our country is the global capital of sports because we arrange different sporting events and tournaments. And another one is just around the corner, the BRICS Sporting Games that will be presented by Ranko Tepavchevich, Deputy General Director of the Directorate of Sports and Social Projects, Republic of Tatarstan. So over to you with your presentation. Good afternoon, dear guests and participants of the forum. Let me start from the individual. I came to Kazan 15 years ago from Serbia when Kazan just started to develop in the sense of sports. And a lot of people here in this room, I see you, I know you, and I congratulate you, Minister of Sports, our MPs, with who we prepared different tournaments, and other colleagues in the panel. And I have to say that we prepared with Mr. Agapitov different sporting tournaments and everything that exists in the world sports and the BRICS games. Let me say, it's like an opposition to those movements that exist in the world sports that we face, that we encounter. And I have to say, from my personal experience as a former athlete who was a swimmer in Yugoslavia, this is the country that was put under sanctions and that suffered from pressure in 1990s. But sports, as we see, can unite us all. And I have to say that when we were preparing the FIFA World Cup in Kazan, so in our team, there were colleagues from Qatar, Mr. Jassim, who was heading the organizing committee in 2018, and it was like I was a student. And so this is how we could take part in these tournaments. So sports unite, it connect us, and we can come up with something new, something more interesting. And BRICS Games is another example of a new format of sporting events that are built on the equal respect, trust and confidence, and traditional values that are being developed in the Russian Federation. So let me say a few words about our upcoming event. So Russia is hosting this event, and Tatarstan and Kazan, as we said before, the capital of sport. So in the previous decade we hosted the biggest sporting events. So we organized these events, and when we were preparing for the FIFA World Cup 2018, we had a FINA World Championships and the FIFA delegation that went to Kazan Arena, and they said, so if you can arrange a swimming tournament here, there will be no problem with football. And it's just another example how we can develop sport here in Russia, in Tatarstan, and how we can share this experience. And BRICS Games is a new format of a brand new tournament that can attract young people who are sometimes stuck in video games and we want to bring them into sports, and we want to unite video games and physical sporting disciplines. That's why we had the Games of the Future tournament that unite more than 100 countries, and BRIC Games will be a very large-scale tournament as well, thanks to that support here in Tatarstan. So we expect around 5,000 participants. The applications are being submitted. The process is quite good. And we see some mails coming to our federations, to our colleagues from other countries who get messages from IOC and the NOC, and people say, don't come to Russia, don't come to Kazan. But nonetheless, we have managed to invite some 5,000 people. There will be a lot of participants from different countries, and Mr. Agapitov represents one of the disciplines that will be in the BRICS Games agenda, wrestling. And wrestling is quite popular in BRICS Games, and that's why we expect a lot of wrestlers coming to Kazan. And it will be a very good tournament. But of course, we can face different challenges, and we do face them. So there will be 29 sporting disciplines, and we expect people from all continents of the world. Also, I would like to highlight the IOC countries that will take part in the BRICS Games. So these are countries that submitted their applications for the BRICS Games. So the geography of the tournament is quite good. The BRICS Games is not something new. They started back in 2016 in India. And BRICS Games are being held as part of the global BRICS agenda. And Russia host different BRICS activities, and BRICS Games is one of them, but such a scale that you are going to expect in Kazan was never seen before. Because in previous BRICS Games there were just a few disciplines. Now we are going to have much more disciplines, there will be much more athletes, and this is how we are going to progress. So now a few words about venues and facilities. So this is the legacy of Universiade. It's one of the biggest projects that took place in Kazan, and as it was said by our Azerbaijani colleague, we also have such an experience where we have praying rooms. We had these rooms during the Universiade, so it was the project that we have carried out. And this is what we are going to use during the BRICS Games. It will be a very decent service for our guests, for our fans. We pay special attention to catering, to diverse catering that should be available and accessible to any person at the BRICS Games. So people will be accommodated at hotels. So just recently, when we visited Kazan Epoch, we could see that everything is okay in terms of religious rituals. So we pay special attention not just to sport development, but to observing religious rules. So everything will be okay in terms of that. So as for competition schedule, the agenda is quite intense. The tournament will be held from June 11th to June 24th. Most of venues will be located in the city center, very close to each other. And here, all the venues are existing ones that we used for several times for different large-scale competitions and events. I'm not going to deep dive into the description of such venues, but I would like to say special thank you to the Republic of Tatarstan and to our ministry, because these venues can host best tournaments, and now they are being upgraded. And since 2013, since Universiade, there were no such big investments in upgrading our sports venues, and all these venues will be ready for the BRICS Games, and they will comply with all international standards. So this is the Aquatics Palace that will host synchronized swimming and diving, gymnastics arena, and other venues that are used by our athletes and by our students. As for business agenda, another very important event will take place, the BRICS Ministers Summit that will take place on June 22-23. And it will be like an open format with 80 countries and 80 delegations, and there will be a special agenda that will be discussed in Kazan. So also we are going to prepare a UNESCO declaration that will include all values that are very relevant to the future of sports and to everything that relates to these sports development prospects. So this is the weightlifting arena, badminton center, international equestrian complex, and you probably saw this is the mascot of the BRICS Games. It's a leopard, Brixic, and he is quite popular already. So here is the ticketing program information. I have to say that tickets are being sold very actively and intensively, and the price policy is quite affordable. Also, the opening ceremony will take place here in Kazan Expo. Just like during the Games of the Future, it will be a very large-scale event. As for cultural program, we prepare it for our guests, for our athletes and fans. It will be different tours, and also people will have a chance to take part in the national festival Sabantui. It's a very big festival where the cultural legacy of Tatarstan will be presented, and people will have a chance to deep dive into our culture, into our values. So, already mentioned the BRICS conference, and here is some contact information of our Directorate for Sports and Social Projects. I would like to wish to all our participants a very good and memorable event. I also would like to invite our colleagues to take part in the BRICS Games. We know that Qatar and Azerbaijan will be presented at the BRICS Games, and we are hoping that this event will once again become a memorable event in your life. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ranko would like to emphasize that in Russia we know and we love how to host big sporting events, and we do it in a very on a very high level. So if you would like to come to Russia to see sporting events or to take part in them, you don't need to have any permissions. If you comply with our legislation, if you observe the law, and if you follow the traditional values, you are always welcome. So Russia is always happy to any guests, and we always respect our guests. Russia is a multi-confessional country, and we have a region, the Republic of Dagestan, which is quite confessional. And to build sport, you have to understand that sport is a social phenomenon. We need to respect each other, we need to respect different cultures and people from other countries, and we comply with all these standards. I would like to give the floor to the Minister of Sports of the Republic of Dagestan, who will share his experience how, through sports, we can achieve peace and agreement. So, over to you. Thank you very much. Dear participants of the forum, dear guests, the Republic of Dagestan is the southmost region of Russia with different confessions and different religions. Dagestan can be called Russia in miniature because in peace, agreement, and mutual respect, more than 35 ethnicities live there. We have our own languages, dialects, different views on culture. We have very good traditions. Dagestan is a unique region, and over several centuries we have been building our values, how to raise and educate younger generation, how to protect and respect family values. Religion is a sacred thing in Dagestan because through it we teach our children how to respect each other, and this is the foundation for the respect for their homeland, for their region, for Russia. Also, we pay special attention to sport as it helps us to promote mutual respect. People from Dagestan, starting from 1960s, got a lot of gold medals during the Olympic Games, and these are people from of different ethnic origins: Russians, Dagestans, Avar. Lok, and so on and so forth, and we always respect the traditional values of the Russian Federation, and we always pay respect to different religions. We arrange different tournaments of a Russian level or international level. We're always happy to see delegations from any country in the world. Dagestan is the mecca of wrestling, and a few years ago we hosted the European Wrestling Championships, and such a forum is a very good chance for us to communicate with the entire world, because more people can learn more about Dagestan, about our culture and traditions, and people of different confessions and nationalities can work together, can create together, can live together. Dagestan welcomes wrestlers from any country in the world, and even today in sunny Dagestan, the Olympic champion and a four-time world champion Susaki goes through her training process. She is getting ready for the Paris Olympic Games, and she wanted to have a 2-week training camp here in Dagestan. Saidullah Abdurrashid, known as the Russian tank, in 2020 invited his opponent Kyle Snyder from the United States, and this is going to be a very interesting fight, but they always pay respect to each other. And we need to have good examples and role models for our young generation. In our republic, we have very good multi-confessional, multi-religional connections, and this is the outcome of very thorough work and policy that can be seen in any areas of our life. Dagestan is all about friendship, communication, and mutual respect. Dagestan is the region that can serve as an example. And as a Minister of Sports of Dagestan and as a ordinary citizen of Dagestan, I would like to invite all of you to Dagestan. We're very hospitable. We're very happy to welcome you. Always very happy to see you and ready to share our traditions with you. So what has been said before, what is going to be integrated into the world sports, into our life, into our families, into our culture and our way of life. So I think that any person in at your position, in your country, in your region, we need to do everything to protect and to maintain our family values, our culture, our religion. It is possible. So thank you very much.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much, distinguished minister. Sport is a respected industry by the media representatives, and it's also represented by athletes, those who participate in large sport events. But on top of high-performance sports, such as Greek Games, the Olympics, etc., there are some other events where any person who loves sports can participate in. Now, I would like to introduce the director of the Ethno Run project, Vadim Yengirov, who will introduce the project where sports and culture, including with traditional values, are put together. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Vadim Yengirov, and I would like to talk about Ethno Run project. So, when we say Ethno Run, we mean both running and jogging. So this is one of the mass sports around the world. About 100 million people run regularly, and actually now we see the increase in the number of marathon runners. Quite recently, the applications for the London Marathon were closed, and a large number of people would like to take part in the London Marathon. And based on the lottery, only 40,000 marathon runners will be chosen for this. Another thing is the running tourism. Amateurs quite often participate in mass marathons around the world because they would also like to visit some tourist attractions. So they would also like to see different cultures. As of now, there are a lot of marathons and races are organized. I actually have run about 40 marathons in different countries, and believe me, they were not very different. They all were organized very well by the high standards, but there was no connection to the place where they were taking place as they are. So we wanted to experiment, and we wanted to create another project which is called Ethno Run. Who are we, you would ask? So we are a company, Timer Man. Maybe you've heard that last weekend there is a Kazan marathon, and about 20,000 athletes were running. This is one of the largest marathons now. Now it can be compared with the largest in Russia, Moscow Marathon. And so we've developed a concept of ethnic marathons, which is called Ethno Run. So, of course, here we value the high standards of organization, such as the certified tracks, the food venues, the runner starter pack, the professional photo, unique finishes, procedures, etc. This is the sports aspect, and we also pay some special attention to the cultural aspects and attractions. What do we mean here? Here we mean national culture and clothing. So this is a mini national celebration. This can also be a festival run in national clothing. This includes national music and food. So just over 2 or 3 days, when a person goes somewhere to run, this person dives deep into the culture of this place, and that's quite unique because you will not see it anywhere in the world. When you come to some country to participate in sport events, you will not be offered any tour before the official program starts. You will not be offered to taste the food, the local food. But what we do is actually all of this. One of the elements of Ethno Run is, for example, a race with a national attribute of clothing. For example, in Kazan, we do this in the national huts. We do it offline, but on top of this, we also involve other compatriots that are placed in different countries in the world online, so they can also wear this national Tatar hat and feel part of this. So what are the results that we've achieved? First, we've increased the domestic tourism, made the region more attractive. Also, we've increased the involvement in a healthy lifestyle, developed the national identity, and also it produced economic effect on regions. We continue to develop this project in different regions of Russia, in the national regions. Here we involve the local authorities, those bodies that organize national holidays. It would make it easier to show the local national culture. We do this in different regions of Russia, but in parallel with this, we also invite different other countries to participate in this. I guess that this project is very nice because when a person comes to participate in a sports event, this person also gets involved into the culture and is able to learn more about the culture. So we invite you to take part in the cooperation to develop this national holiday around the world. Thank you, and I'm open to your questions around the Ethno-Run project. Thank you, Vadim. Dear colleagues, we still have a little bit time left, and if you'd like to speak shortly, it'll be my pleasure to give you the floor. Please take the mic. Hello once again. I would also like to suggest something to the representative to the Ministry of Sports of Dagestan. You can actually sit. It's not a problem. So, as we know, Dagestan is one of the richest regions of Russia, as well as in the world when it comes to wrestling. And so I actually also organized a sport team, and we all know that Dagestan is famous for the level of this professional wrestling. So we know that Republic of Tatarstan now is the motherland of ice hockey, but maybe, and it's a suggestion, Dagestan can become the capital for the Middle East countries and for the BRICS countries in the field of wrestling. So here I don't only talk about competitions, it's also about training. It's about training personnel, such as coaches, the sport event organizers, etc. I guess you have all the tools, and I suggest to work to develop this topic further. We have the representatives of Kuwait and for some other Arab countries. And so, actually, for example, we, the representatives of Tatarstan, we were invited to come to Abu Dhabi for the World Championship of Wrestling, and we could evaluate the level of professionalism in wrestling in Arab countries. I'm from Egypt, and so we also have a very high level of this discipline in Egypt. So this suggestion of mine stands, I guess it's very relevant. Everybody would like to come to you and share experience. So Dagestan has the opportunity to become the capital of wrestling for the Middle East countries as well as for BRICS countries. Thank you very much for this question and suggestion. So I've already said that there are a lot of athletes coming to us from all around the world in the field of wrestling and martial arts. They organize training camps there, and we would like to continue to develop the tourism in our republic, and together with our Ministry of Tourism we develop a sports tourism. So our guests can get experience in their discipline And they can also visit some sightseeings in our republic. And what you said about wrestling, including in Syria, well, I guess that our federations could join our efforts and could organize something like this. We do have the sites and venues where one can train and compete, and the representatives of your federations can also come to us, as well as you can invite our professionals and representatives to come to your regions. There are a lot of leaders of our teams, and they're actually the leaders of some other national teams, and they come from Dagestan. The world champion is actually from Dagestan, Ahmed Tajudinov, and he represented Bahrain when he became the world champion. So we will be very happy to welcome you at any time. Thank you. I would also like to add, as we said, the Russian Federation is open to any kind of cooperation, and at the next session, Mr. Monashvili will be present here, and I guess that you'll be able to discuss questions connected to wrestling. So now I would like to give the floor to Marat Mansurovich, who did a lot to develop sports in Tatarstan and in the Russian Federation. I have the question to Mr. Gusainov. So you talked about the Islamic Games. It was very interesting. So you know that Russia have come up with a suggestion to organize the Junior World Islamic Games for children. And the goal is actually relevant for our topic of today. We would like to provide a platform to people to meet, to cooperate, to integrate. And we do understand that if one starts with the children, it becomes much more efficient and useful and fruitful. And so on top of this, if children are doing sports, then they'll continue to develop together, and they'll continue the international cooperation further. So my question is, what do you think about this idea of organizing the Junior Islamic World Games? And if yes, if you are for this, will the Azerbaijani team participate in this? Thank you very much for this question. Indeed, we will be very happy to take part in those games if those are organized. I support your words about the junior and youth games. Of course, children are our future athletes, and I'm sure that this will be our development. As to the participation, I do hope that if those are organized, then we'll take part in those. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. So to sum up, I would like to thank you for your questions, and I would like to thank our speakers for their wonderful speeches. Indeed, sport and Islam is very important, but kind of a new topic for Russia. So we started to pay more attention to this. The Ministry of Sports of Russia started to cooperate with the traditional confessions more and more. And we hope that the norms that Rustam Hazrat mentioned today and the norms that are suggested by different confessions will also help to make our citizens and guests that are coming to our countries more healthy and happier. Thank you very much. I would like to add that the next roundtable, sports and spiritual and moral education, will start here at 1 p.m.